Okay, so today what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at actually once we have a sketch created, and it's where we left off in the previous video. What we want to do is really what Inventor is all about, is making a 3D rendering of that particular sketch. So we're going to create what's known as, put it in model mode, and then create a model from this. So before we had this simple rectangle we created just with the line tools, and what we can do is we can finish that sketch. And you notice in the browser then it gives us what sketch. We have one sketch now in our browser, a completed sketch, and we can revert back to that. If you double click on that particular sketch, it'll go back into sketch mode, okay, and we can go back through and create lines or rectangles and things or circles. But for now we just want to click on finish that. And we see we moved from a sketch window to what's known as the modeling window or modeling tab. And what we're going to do is we're going to extrude this. We're going to give it a three-dimensional look. So if you click on extrude, currently we only have one surface that we can extrude. So right now it's extruding this, and if that window is ever hidden, you can just click the drop down once you click extrude, and it's going to basically give you, right now we could change that. The default's typically at 1 inch if you're working with inches. Well, let's say we wanted to extrude that out at 0.5. It'll show us a preview. You can extrude that forward, or you can go in a different direction. This calls it direction 2, which is the back side of the initial sketch. You can go in a symmetrical view, so it will extrude it at 0.25 or a quarter of an inch to the left and the right, so it's symmetrical on both sides. All right, but let's say we want to move that out. Let's actually make it 1.5. Okay, and we're going to click OK on that to give us the extrusion. So there you go. Again, we can go back to our browser, our view cube up top here, and we can view it from, now if we view it from the top, you can see how we get the different shapes associated with that particular view. We'll go back to our home, our isometric, and then our front. Okay. So what we're going to do is from the top view actually, is we're going to create a new sketch on top of this particular rectangle that we created, and we extruded out to this the cube here. So what we want to do is click on create a new sketch. Anytime you want to put a new sketch and draw new items on a particular existing item or part, this is what we're going to do. So we got want to click on create 2D sketch. We're going to select that top surface because I want to draw some items on the top view here, and we worked already with the line tool, so we're going to go ahead and work with the circle tool today. We'll take a look at that. We can go ahead and create some different circles. The nice thing is once you're in this mode, you can see as I drag my cursor across this, it'll actually show me what is the midpoint of that object. So you get a green dot there where it shows you the midpoint. You should see that with this horizontal line right there. You see you get the midpoint. So I can actually drag that out if I wanted to, and you can see right there it gives me the midpoint horizontally and vertically, so this would be the dead center of that object. So let's go ahead and select that point. You can see I get those dotted lines, which are basically guidelines to show that the midpoints. I'm going to go ahead and work with my circle tool. I just left clicked there, and let's go ahead and make the first one 1 inch. So we create that 1 inch. Let's say I wanted to create another circle. From that point we'll just go right here and create a smaller one at 0.25. And again, I'm just using this to use those guidelines so we know it's the center, dragging it from the center. Again, we'll go 0.25 here. So now we have a couple circles drawn into this. Now before I showed you just how to extrude this, and we're going to go back and we're going to extrude and cut some items out of this. To show you what happens is once we created that second sketch, you can see now we have our second sketch here, sketch 2, which has the circles associated that we drew those on. I'm just going to press escape to go back to my cursor. Once we created that extrusion with the first sketch, it basically dropped that. Here you see sketch 1. If I click that plus there, there's the extrusion that we put on sketch 1, but sketch 1 is there. It's in a hidden view right now. If we right click on that and go to visibility, it'll show us the dimensions and things that we associated with that. If we don't want to see that, if we right click on that, we click visibility off, it'll take those particular dimensions off. But that's where you're going to see all your different sketches. And basically when you create new sketches, just layers on top of each other. And you'll notice that as we put more sketches through here on the browser, it'll just pile up with sketches upon sketches. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back through here. We're going to finish this sketch just to show you some other extrude commands and things. I'm going to actually go to isometric view so you can see this a little better. Click on extrude. Let's say for some of these items we wanted to maybe cut out or extrude up through. We can do that. So let's say for this big hole right here, let's say we wanted to cut through that. So the first command we worked with was the extrusion, but let's say now we want to cut through this particular object. You can see how we have more commands that populated here now that we have a three-dimensional object to work with. And I can click on cut, and I can give it a certain distance. Alright, I can go use some of these other commands. I typically like to work with distance though, and let's say I wanted to cut 1 inch through this particular piece here. You can see I know it's selected by it shading that off gray there, and you can see it gives me a preview. If I orbit this around, alright, it gives me that preview, alright, that it's going to cut all the way through that object. Now it's cutting more than what's needed, but that's fine. It's not a big deal. We can actually accept that, and there we go. It cut all the way through that object for us. Okay, so we have that cut out. Now you might be wondering what happened to those original circles. Well, again, if we go back to our top view, remember what I talked about showing the sketch and making sure that it is visible. If I go back in here into my that sketch here, and what I want to do is make sure that we do have that it's visible, the visibility is on. So I'm just going to right click on that. You can see that it's not grayed out anymore. Sketch 2 is colored, and it shows me those exact areas here that I have those 1/4 inch circles that I drew earlier. So again, if you something that's drawn, you know is drawn, it's on there, disappears on you, it's probably because the visibility is off on that particular sketch. So just either locate that sketch again by clicking the pluses. Alright, if you have a feature that's on there, like an extrude, you extrude it out, and right click on there just to make sure that that is visible. So what we'll do with these, let's go ahead and, if we wanted to cut those out, we could. Let's say we wanted to raise these a little bit. Again, I'm going to go back to my home view, my isometric view, and let's say I wanted to take one of these and raise that up 0.25, and let's say I can do that then, and if I orbit this around a little bit, okay, just to show you here, we can select that again. Since we have the visibility on here, we'll continue. You see how we did have that extra extrusion now on sketch 2. Okay, and again, we still have one more item that we could work with here. So again, we could orbit that around, take a look at our piece, and maybe we want to push this one down through the bottom. Alright, so I could select that, and I can go in the opposite direction if I wanted to. Which any direction you really want, but I could, let's say I wanted to cut that down a certain distance into it. Alright, I could do that. Let's say this one I only want to cut down through the material 1/4 inch. Click OK, and now you see we have, if we go back to our home view, we have a hole that goes completely through. We created basically a pin that comes up through the piece, and then another item that goes down at a depth of 1/4 inch. Alright, a couple other items real quick just to show you is what's known as a fillet command. So I can show you a fillet here real quick just to give you an idea. A fillet, we can click on our fillet and we can round off particular items. So again, I'll drop that window down. So now we have these areas that we extruded or cut down through, and let's say I wanted to round some of these edges off. So I can actually show you how to round some of those edges off. I can click on the surface that I want to round off, and it'll tell me what the radius is. Alright, so it's allowing me right now to create that radius, but let's say you had too large of a radius. For example, let's see if it gives me a preview here, 0.5, you can see that's getting pretty big. Let's see if we make 0.75 radius, still making it pretty big there. I actually want to show you. Okay, so you see I made it a radius of 2 inches, you can see you get these red lines. It means that the radius is too much. It cannot actually create a fillet or a round over in that particular area that is that large. So again, I would want to make this a little smaller. So if we make that 1/4 of an inch, or even a little smaller than that, let's go. Again, we can type in a fraction too if you want to do 1/8. Okay, and select multiple surfaces. Alright, it creates that round over on our piece. And again, I can move this around to different views and select the surfaces that I wanted to create that with. Okay, I can even do it on inside surface here. Alright. And I could click apply that or cancel that. Again, it shows me everything that in regards to that surface that now has a fillet. And if I wanted to put a smaller fillet in this area, I could go ahead and do that. Say I wanted to make a 1/16 of an inch fillet around these objects here. Okay, I could do that as well. And again, it creates that fillet for me. Okay, so that's just showing you a little bit with cutting and using fillets in Inventor. Thanks for watching.